Hey there folks, thanks for coming back to Workflow. We're doing a giveaway for the fake ice we use here today in our Facebook group. The link's in the pinned comment, but let's get straight to the point and running through my workflow for splash photography. We'll keep it pretty light and simple and airy today, as I always do. I just shot this with a Yongnuo Speedlight, and it's not about to win the world's best splash award, but let's just explore the parameters to freeze that motion, inject all that kind of chaos into your canvas, and it really is a seductive, impactful technique that you can apply to many different genres. Like aesthetically, I'd love to see this in alcohol advertising, and you do quite often. Still life photography. You know, being able to harness this motion has a lot of applications in those genres, and you can bring a lot of magic to the table by knowing about that. So speaking of tables, shooting tables, you guys have been asking me what I'm using here at Workflow. I like to use a metal plate that's TIG welded to a nut, and I just set a simple plexiglass sheet on top of that. Now this is a really strong option. It's TIG welded, so it's a good strong weld. I can put a big bottle of booze on this or anything I please. And the plexiglass sheets are just great because I can put black, white, plexi, whatever you want. And I'll link all that Amazon goodness in the description. So I have a diffuser here with a flash behind it, a Speedlight. Let me just show you what it's looking like and we'll break it down. If you've seen my episode, How to Photograph Glass on White, it's my most popular workflow. And it pretty much illustrates how to get to this point, but we brought in a diffuser in the background. So we get a big white canvas, but it's kind of unusable because although the glassware looks classically lit in a pleasing nature, we see harsh lines around the edges. Now what product photographers honestly usually do is just double it up or have a thicker diffusion material in general. So let me show you what's going on back here. I got a Speedlight. Now I used a Stripbox adapter, but you certainly don't have to do that. You could just use a Speedlight on its own. And I'm just doubling up the diffusion there. And hopefully that'll soften up the light, make it a bit more silky, a bit more desirable. So things got a bit darker because the diffusion steals some of that energy for sure, but it also got a lot more smooth, and I'm happy with that change. Now the garnish still looks like garbage, and we'll fix that next. How about that? So we'll bring in a second Speedlight, and that's something I often like to do, and we'll just put it on a light stand. You could handhold this kind of stuff, but you're gonna need your hands free in a moment for splashing. So I have this at 1/128th power, and let's see just how powerful that is at such a low power. Look at that, it looks outrageous. I don't actually enjoy it. Because we frontally lit it, it just looks so flat. And the side effect of having this big honking shadow over there is not necessarily pleasant either. And it kind of washed out all of the drama from our background in general. Now the reason 1/128th power is so powerful here is because I'm at 1600 ISO. You want to keep your flash power as low as possible. A lower flash power results in a briefer flash duration, which will freeze your water better, essentially, and not leave you ghosting effects. But I'm going to put the light in a more side directional shape, and that'll hopefully catch the textures in the garnish and the fruit specifically, which can, give it more texture in our image and kind of bring it to life. And it somehow got even brighter. So what I'm going to do now is, since I can't turn the power down anymore, I'm at 1/128th, I'll just back it up the old-fashioned way, and more distance equals less power. Cool. And maybe I'll find a happy medium, because now it's looking a little dull. And we'll do a quick before and after with the original, and just see that with the light coming in. And that's pretty nice. Now I'm not going to win the world's best garnish award, that's for sure. I just threw a lime up here as an obstacle to sort of make us frontally light something. Now, I encourage you to go on Pinterest and find the world's best garnishes for you to use, but I just kept this very simple, so please don't judge me by my rank lime that's up there. I think this is a good scenario to start with. We could have fixed a few of those problems in post-production. For instance, I could have got rid of the harsh diffuser lines in post. I also could have used the same flash twice and comped it in post. But I enjoy having an integral setup when it comes to splash photography because splashes are so wild by nature. You don't want to leave anything to chance and have the splashes cross an area you're planning to fix in post. By capturing an exposure with the light on and the light off, we can also use this original image without weird specular highlights going in the glass and comp in just the lime from here. And then you kind of get the best of both worlds like Hannah Montana. And I already regret saying that, but let's just move right along in this lighting scenario. The one thing I would feel comfortable comping in is just something to get more detail in the front of the glass. Kind of hard to explain. Let me show you what I mean. That wasn't close enough, so I'll move it a bit higher. I'm always eyeballing things here on Workflow, and it's tricky. And there we go. So if we check out that shot and the original, See, we got some good information to comp in there, and that's not something I'm worried about the splash crossing, because it is such a distinct black line on a bright background that's going to be subject to us using darken mode to combine that with the original frame, and that's a 2-second composite. And whether or not it's splashing, that remains true. Obviously, we don't have water in the glass right now, but we have a pretty integral setup so far with that comp layer in mind, so I think water is our next step. Alrighty then, folks, I just filled up the glass. I think we're ready to start splashing. I'm shooting at f13, which is a decent depth of field, but you have to keep in mind, I like keeping my flash power low for the brief flash duration that's associated with that. So it's a bit of a give and take. I hope f13 will suffice, but we'll analyze the splashes in a moment. Now, I'm not worried about getting the surface dirty because we have those other exposures we can use of it clean to comp in later. So now that we have a beautiful integral setup, let's just start splashing. And we don't have an optical trigger, so we have to sort of time this out by eye, and it's going to be pretty tricky, to be honest. I'll probably miss this one. Ooh, there's my hand in the shadow, so a bit of a mistake right off the bat. And you know, it's not a total game killer again, because we could combine this with that exposure and find a happy medium. So that's a good right off the hop example of why it's so important to capture those initial exposures. Let's actually analyze the quality of our splash here. And what do we think of that? At f13, I gotta say, it's actually not too bad. And we are using a kit lens, not the sharpest lens in the world, but I'll keep jiving out at f13. And one great way to use an even deeper depth of field is to use multiple flashes. That way you can keep the power lower prospectively, and just by doubling up the number of the flashes, you can sort of cheat the system. So let's take another exposure here. Hallelujah. Okay, so another decent splash. And at this point, our shooting surface isn't actually too dirty. I'm pretty surprised by that, but normally it just gets completely filthy. So let's take a few more and just see if we can get something to comp together. I gotta say, I'm pretty good at timing this out. I don't want to brag. Oh, some nice droplets. You know, it's actually really beautiful having droplets like that, because you can zoom in and like copy a droplet like that and then bring it in to a separate exposure like this. And it kind of seems like a weird thing to do, but sometimes just having that droplet information is a godsend, and it's so nice when you're compositing and you have that available to you. Let's take one more exposure just to see if we can get lucky here with a beauty splash. Keep in mind, that's 4 splashes, and I certainly missed that one. I felt it miss. And you know, I kind of look like old school film noir murderer in the back there in the shadow, so why don't I do one more? That may have been magic. Not really. But you know, that's a part of splash photography. You just gotta make the integral setup and then splash for days and hope that something beautiful comes out of it. And in this case, I actually think that shot's one of our coolest shots. But imagine if you splash this 100 times, that'd be lovely, and you don't gotta worry about the dirty plexiglass because of our composited layers. You guys may be asking yourself, why does my original final shot look so much more dramatic and moody? Sure, the backlight here is actually a bit more side directional, I will say, which does look dramatic, but I would capture that still in this high key context, and then I'll use curves later to pull it into a more moody, tonal aesthetic. But I do enjoy the high key look as well, and it does look powerful with the frozen motion. And geez, that was 5 splashes, guys, so you can't even take this seriously. Imagine if you had a day at your disposal and you just splashed all day. Who could stop you, really? And having that blank canvas was really, I mean, I couldn't have done that composite without it. It's so useful in making things look pristine and perfect. I'm really happy to run you through my processes for approaching this kind of stuff with fairly limited gear. Guys, make sure to join our Facebook group. The link's in the description. It's a real party, and I hope to see you all there. Thanks to everyone who already joined. I'll catch you next week at Workflow. I'm Dustin Dolby. Have a beautiful day.